Morning, fourth graders. Our book of the day, Chrysanthemum. I think this is one of Kevin Hankey's most well-known books. In May, I usually do an activity with this book, so hopefully we'll be able to do it even if we're doing distant learning. So we'll see about that. I love the beginning. This is one of my favorite beginnings to a book. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. I read this book to my class the day my niece was born, just by coincidence. So reading that, I was like, oh, little baby. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was, Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. She loved the way it sounded when she whispered it whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with pink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on a birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. That's a long name. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. He tends to do that suspense building with it. And then, remember when we were reading, what one were we reading? Was it Chester's Way with the friends? I'm forgetting which one it was. Oh no, it was something about Lily, right? And so then Lily shows up and then Lily showed up. And then Julia showed up. That's suspense building. Sorry, I can't think of which one it is. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile as she ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school! But when Miss Chudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. And there's some names there like Al and Bill and Sue and Tom and Victoria. It's so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. Oh, like a flower when a flower dies and goes down. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long, it scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. I love parcheesi. I used to play it with my grandparents. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. I love seeing the books that the dad's reading. The Inner Mouse, Volume 1, Childhood Anxiety. Trying to help his daughter. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Very unkind. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, "A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things." "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chudd. "Now put your head down." "I just cannot believe your name," Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. "Neither can I," thought Chrysanthemum miserably. "Welcome home," said her mother. "Welcome home," said her father. "School is no place for me," said Chrysanthemum. "They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me." "Oh, pish," said her mother. "They're just jealous and envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced," said her father. "Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours?" said her mother. "After all, it's absolutely perfect," said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. And Dad's book, Understanding Identity. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She spotted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. "Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum," the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Miss Twinkle, the music teacher. I love the name. Remember we talked about sometimes the names reflect the characters, like you have Cruella de Vil in 101 Dalmatians, Cruel Devil. And you have Miss Honey and Matilda, if you ever read Miss Honey or read Matilda or saw the movie. And she's sweet. So Twinkle, like Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star, like the song. She must be very like upbeat and shiny and sparkly. That would be my idea. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. "Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy," Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so humorous?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Jo. "It scarcely fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "I love to be named after a flower. It's pretty." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is?" said Jo. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would?" said Rita, pointing. "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect." Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed. She gleamed. She bloomed. Remember, she kept wilting. And now she's blooming. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. "Call me Marigold," said Jo. "I'm Carnation," said Rita, pointing. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely beautiful. She knew it. I like the little epilogue. So epilogue is what happens after the story ends. Overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty fairy queen. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Eventually, Miss Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and, of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. Yay! All right, guys. Have a good day.